Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another tutorial. Technically, this is a tutorial I have already made before in the past, but I have learned some new things on how to make hair that I would like to share with you guys, so I'm kind of making an updated version, as well as I'm going to be going through and doing my best to remake most of my older tutorials, as I was getting a lot of comments that said the volume was too low and people were having a difficult time hearing me. So I'm going to go ahead and leave those videos up for now because that does seem to be a sporadic event. I've tested it on my computer, my boyfriend's computer, our phones, some of our friends' phones and computers. So we're not having any issues hearing the volume, but I was having people say that they couldn't hear anything or that it was really, really low. So it seems to be kind of sporadic. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and leave those other videos up for a little while. But I did want to go ahead and make a new one since I do have a new mic, as well as since I learned some new things. So I've marked the other ones as outdated. If you're coming from that video, that is why I marked it that way. You can still make hair perfectly fine using the old way. This way just kind of helps with a little bit of optimization and some quicker things to kind of cut your time short. I'm going to be trying to keep this video within about the 30-minute mark. It is going to be real time. I'm not going to fast forward or do a lot of shortcuts. I'm going to kind of pretend like you don't know anything about how to make hair, start from scratch like as if my old video doesn't exist, since there are some new things that I have learned, like I said. But also, we're not going to be making like a full hair. I'm simply not that fast. It takes me a good full day's worth of work to be able to fully make a hair. So we're going to make some bangs or something today, kind of like we did in the last video, but I'll do my best to keep it in real time so that way you can see any issues that I might run into or any small tidbits that I can remember that might help you. So I think that's it. With that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so to start off, before I forget, I do have my screencast keys down here. It's been a little while since I've made a tutorial because I had a lot of vacations and stuff come up. So if I forget to list off any buttons that I'm clicking, you can always keep an eye down here and it'll tell you everything that I'm clicking. So yeah, just kind of keep an eye on that. So to get started, you want to hit Shift A, and hair is made using curve properties. So you're going to do Shift A, curve, add a circle. I'm just going to size that down so it's not so big. It doesn't really affect anything. And then Shift A, curve, and you're going to go to path. Also going to size that down just so that's a little bit easier. So to click your circle, you can go into edit mode and you'll have all these little dots, right? But if you notice, only one dot will show its full like line of dots at a time. So I like to come up here in the corner and click on this little arrow down here and make sure origins and origins all is turned on. And that helps you show, well, I guess I said that kind of backwards, sorry. It normally I'm thinking of the wrong thing. Just ignore me. I'm thinking, okay, I'm so sorry. Ignore me. There you go. This is what I mean when I say real time, because I say stupid things and I suck at editing videos, so you guys can hear me mess up. So ignore the origins all thing. I was thinking the wrong thing. Handles. You're going to still click the same thing. Curve edit mode handles. It'll normally say selected, and that's when it shows up like one at a time. I was wondering why it wasn't working. You go to selected and change it to all, and it'll show it all at the same time. I was like, why isn't my origins working? Because I was thinking of the wrong thing. So anyway, change it to all, and it does keep it a little bit easier so you can see everything all at once. So this is how you edit your hair strand. So this is pretty much what it's going to look like. By that, I mean, if you click on your path here, you go down to this like little green like loop thing. You go to object under bevel, and you change that to the circle, right? You can see, change that, move that up. You can see that it is just a flat circle. So if we move this, right? So these little dots, these handles per se, is what's going to change that. And this path that we just made match the circle is going to be our hair strand. So you can use that to, let me do this. Oops. Scoot that back a little bit. You can use this to edit, you know, your hair strand however you want it to be, to match whatever shape. Now I will say the shape doesn't necessarily change a whole lot. It does in the sense of like on one of my hairs that I had made. Hello, there it is. This one, I added some, I call them bevels, like little ridges almost, you can see here, to the hair. So it just kind of gave it a little bit more of like a texture other than the actual like hair image texture. It just kind of added a little bit of more of that 3D element to it. It's not necessary. You can leave it flat if you want, because, you know, most people when they're looking at your avatar are going to be looking at it from this far. So you can't really see it. But it does add a little bit more of that shadow effect. So it's up to you on if you want to leave it more flat or if you want to add little bevels like that. One of the most important things I would say, though, is something new that I had learned, is both on your circle and on your path up here where it says shape, still under that little green curve where it says 3D, this resolution preview, these numbers are important. So whenever I'm just going to duplicate this real quick. And we're going to go ahead and turn this into a mesh. Oops. Right, so that's what this is. So this is, you know, a little over 2,000 polys right here. And that's just from the regular, like, what is it, 12 and 12 on both of them. Then one strand is about 2,000 polys. So as you can imagine, leaving it at that 12 whenever you start adding all your hair, that hair is going to get pretty high poly. And that was something that I didn't know about in my last video. And so then I had talked about unsubdividing, which was working for a long time, but it got to the point that it started messing up my hairs. The UV mapping was getting really, really messed up, really scuffed, things like that. And a major shout out to Nessie, who a lot of you guys know. She's a massive hair creator. She makes avatars, assets, tons. But she's primarily well known for making gorgeous hair in VRChat, and she's the one that kind of let me know about this. And then I had watched a video that she had posted on her watch list that talks about this. So that's why, you know, I was subdividing in my last video, and that actually messes up a lot. So something that we can do is change this. I normally change it to like 3 or 4. We're just going to change both, and it is important to keep them both set to 3. So as you can see, it didn't technically look like it really changed much, but if you actually look at it, it's more low poly, and this changed too. Now the dots didn't change. That's perfectly fine. But if we take this and we go ahead and convert it to a mesh, see, it's a lot lower poly. Now it's 132 faces. All right, so much, much more low poly, and it still looks perfectly fine. And again, people looking at your avatar from across the room, you're not going to be able to see that. Especially whenever it's shrunk down and tossed up on the head. So it looks perfectly fine, and even up close it still looks nice and smooth. So you want to keep it low poly. You know, having the super duper smooth, really pretty hair, it looks nice, but it's not necessarily necessary. This hair up here is about 42, which is a little high, because it's, again, something I had made a long time ago, but looking at it from afar, it's not too bad. And that's still, as you can see, it's been decimated is what it's called. Basically, it went from high poly to low poly because I didn't know about this method back then. So it is a lower poly version, but it could be a lot lower. See, all those extra edges aren't technically needed. So things like that. And then here is one of Nessie's hairs. That is 15. 15. Big difference. And it still looks absolutely stunning, because I think a big thing that we need to remember is the hair textures are going to change a lot. You know, and see, hers is smooth compared to mine having those ridges, and it still looks just wonderful, and it's a lower poly. And that's because we went ahead and quote unquote decimated it before we actually started on it. So we made that lower poly by changing it in the resolution preview. And it does need to be changed on both. They don't have to be the same number. You can do like 3 and 4 or whatever, but that will help you a lot in the long run. So afterwards, you don't have to subdivide it. And if you do it enough, you shouldn't have to merge all the edges, all the vertices, sorry, at the edge of the hair strand. But sometimes if you don't like close it up enough, you still might have to do that. But it does help a lot, and it will be a massive time saver, and it'll save your UV mapping from getting scuffed. So that's primarily the biggest thing I learned from the difference. You can still edit this if you want. So we can go ahead and kind of take this and kind of edit it a little bit. I'm not going to do a whole ton. Actually, I think that's fine. Actually, I kind of like that just as it is, just kind of a bit more flat. Because it don't need to be super pudgy, so a little bit more of a flat strand. Something like that. And, you know, you can change this and edit it however much you want. Because obviously it's going to change the shape of the hair. But it's not the utmost important thing. But you can make whatever shape you're most comfortable with. I made a few different shapes and I keep them separate so that way I have them so you don't have to redo it each time if that's something you want to do as well. So once you have your strand ready, then you're pretty much ready to go. So one of the most important things is, that's going to be a big time saver, is adding a mirror modifier, setting it to your head. So now I don't have to redo it on each side. I can only just do it on the one side, right? So I'm going to go ahead and S to shift, kind of line that up. Something like that. And now we can actually get started on making our hair. So go into edit mode by tab, and these handles are what we're going to use to start sculpting it. And something that I had learned that is pretty helpful, a few different things. So this by default is off. If you turn this on, see this little circle here? It's called, what is it, like proportional editing, that's the word. So it's right now just grabbing this vertex, but the more we scroll out, as you can see, it's going to affect those other vertices kind of in like a gradient radius. So that's super duper helpful whenever it comes to sculpting. I say sculpting, but it's not really sculpting. Also Shift S is to shrink. And this is what I was talking about, like if you do this enough, it shouldn't, you know, just do it a few different times over, make you do the vertices at the end, but you might still have to. Sometimes it don't want to work. And that's okay. And then, yeah, you can just kind of use these, just drag these around to whatever you want. Something else, if you click on a vertex, Control T, and that twists it. You can kind of see a little bit flatter. And then it goes more up against her face that way. Trying to think. And then one more tip is you can click between two vertices by shift clicking them. Right click and click subdivide. And that will add an extra vertice. So if you're struggling, like, let's say, all right, we want this piece here, but okay, now it's clipping in there. But if we take this piece out, maybe it's like sticking out too far or something. It's kind of hard to like make an example of. But you can subdivide, and now you have a little bit more control over that middle area. And then Alt S is how you make pieces thicker or smaller. So that's how I made those two smaller. So we can, and the you know, proportional editing still works on this too. So we can maybe, whoops, do something like that. So it's kind of a nice, like, you know, smooth down. Or like right here, here's a good, let's say I kind of want it to flare out like that, but I don't want it to be out this far. Subdivide. Now I can take just the tip and flare that out that way. So those are kind of all the like main, I guess, like tips. And then up here you can turn on clipping if you want, and it'll smush those two together. Now you might not necessarily want to do that, just depending, because if you do clip it together, it's going to count both of these as one single strand, and the vertices will join right there in the middle. So it's up to you on if you want that. Just depends on kind of what you're planning on doing with it. And yeah, those are kind of all the short keys I think that are most helpful for making hair. And then you just kind of use a whole lot of Control T and Alt S, all the different stuff like that to I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. I don't know, just kind of playing around. Yeah, and then you kind of, start building your hair from that way. So something else that is helpful with the proportional editing, I can select all, Control D to duplicate, click, and then see, so right now for me it's only changing this one strand. Yours by default is not going to do that. Yours by default is going to move both strands. So to do that, where the proportional editing you turn on, if you click on this little hill and you click connected only, it'll change that. And that's going to be helpful. It kind of keeps it all under one thing. It's really your preference on if that's something that you find helpful or not. For me, I found it very helpful because I can kind of sit here and edit like both pieces at the same time. It can be a little difficult, especially if you're a beginner. Just going to hover over this, click L to link, and then Alt S, make it all a bit smaller. It can be a little bit difficult if, like I said, you're a beginner and you're still trying to kind of figure out the ins and outs of Blender and you're not really too sure how to easily tell the vertices apart. Because I know it took me a while for my eyes to kind of adjust to be able to figure them out. But yeah, once you feel comfortable, or if you are more comfortable with Blender, I think it's pretty helpful. Because, we could be sitting here editing this strand and we're like, oh, I need that strand to move, instead of having to exit out of edit mode on this one and click on the other one, go back into edit mode. Then just do it this way. And then just click that one and edit that one, which I think is pretty helpful. So, yeah, like I was saying, that's kind of the shortcut keys, the buttons that are probably going to help you out the most when it comes to making your hair. And if things are overlapping in a way you don't want, you don't necessarily have to worry about that right away, because that's something you can always edit after the fact. Right, so then I'm going to click that one, link, and Alt S. Do something a little bit more like that. Oops. Go. I don't know. It's not looking like the prettiest hair out there. None of my tutorial hairs ever do. But like I said, I'm still pretty new to it, so I'm not near as fast. If you ever go watch Nessie's streams, I'm just in utter shock at how fast she is. She's very, very quick. I looked away for 10 minutes one day and she had half of a hair done. And I was like, what? But she does it so smoothly and so well. It always looks really good. But she's been at this a lot longer than I have, so I definitely recommend watching her streams. I feel like you can learn a lot. And she's very sweet too. Very, very kind. So let's say I kind of want a new one, but I don't want it messed with anything. I'm going to add a new path and redo this. And then, whoops, say that way. Nope, wrong way. There we go. So just rotating it. But yeah, I'm not quite that fast to where I can get super duper far quickly. Oh, and GY is what I'm using right now to kind of... GY. This is all I was doing, just from the front view. And see, you can still do that, but now I can't edit like them both at the same time. So that's kind of why I prefer to do this. Not all the time, it just kind of depends on what I'm working on. And I think stacking hair on top of each other is another like really helpful thing, because it kind of helps give that like three-dimensional look without having those extra polys on your hair strand. If that makes sense. And see, then if I wanted to, I could like duplicate that and then shrink it down, and I could use that. There's just all kinds of stuff that you can do. It's really just a kind of, you gotta have like an image in your head, I think, of what you want, and then just understand that, think of it like clay. Like you're literally like taking clay and you're building off of that. I don't like these side pieces anymore. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, and S will still work, by the way. If you want to do like cute, like little like baby pieces or something. Just regular scaling still works perfectly fine. Actually, I like that. Low-key? Actually? Hold on. Let me take this one. I'm hitting P to separate. And then I'm going to remove, because I don't want that piece there. Yeah. Something like that. I really don't like these, but she looks funny without it. Okay. I'm gonna just kind of throw something down. Oops. Object. Rotate. Something like that. Just to kind of give y'all an example. Boop. Oh no. Clicked the wrong thing. Yeah, so if you do move stuff too much, like it'll kind of twist funny. So just keep that in mind. But that's what that Control T is for. So that you can fix it. Like so. And I kind of want this to come up, this to come down, so that it's kind of like creating like that little like line there that we all kind of have, like, well, if you have like a middle part on your hair, like your real life hair. Oh no, except I twisted this away. Oops. It's all twisted. No. That's okay. Also, this is how you make ears. They kind of look like bunny ears right now, these two hair strands. Oh, good lord. But yeah, curves and paths are how, at least I make ears. There's obviously tons and tons of ways to make like anything under the sun. But yeah, you can stretch them however much you want. There's lots and lots of different ways you can play with hair. And see, so like now she's starting to get something kind of sort of going on her side, and you could pretty much, like, depending on what you're trying to do, sit here and like duplicate it and then like refine it from there. I don't know, something like that. But, you know, you get what I'm saying. Like, you could just kind of keep building off of it. And it looks absolutely not the very best right now. But, yeah, you get what I'm saying. So, I'm going to go ahead and take, like, I guess these pieces will do. Well, no, I'll do these pieces because I might mess with that later. So, once you have your hair all done, you can like shift select like all of them and do it all at once if you want to. I'm just going to do one piece for now. So you right click, convert to mesh, and now it's your actual mesh, right? So then you come in here, and I tend to turn on the x-ray mode just to be safe so that you make sure you're grabbing all the vertices. If you highlight over it, see this one is still 12 vertices just in that one spot. So M to merge and merge its center. And that'll help. Like I said, the Alt-S technically is supposed to close it up, but sometimes, no matter how much you do it, it won't close it all the way. So sometimes you just want to kind of go through and double check the tips. And something else you can do to help with optimization is you can look on this inside part, like right here. There's not really much. Once I fix this up, maybe, but like if you have a hair strand that's like, let's say, let me do this, actually, help you guys. Oh, it's like, where's my pen? Let's say you have a piece that's like this, right? Or something. So it like starts like just above the ear, and that part's not rigged, which I'll make a second updated video on, but rigging is the same as the last video if I don't have it up yet. So like you'll rig it like down here because we don't want the parts on the top of her head to move, obviously. So you'll start rigging it like right here. So this part, you know, you don't have to put all the way up at the top. You put like right here. Let's say it's like inside this hair strand or something, or inside her head. You could take those vertices and you could cut the unnecessary ones, or you can merge them. Just kind of different little things like that, if that makes sense. It's kind of difficult to explain without, well, I guess I could. Something like ignoring that there's a duplicated part. So let's say we have this hair strand here. So see, like all of that bit, well, excluding this side because that's the second hair strand. So like, let's say you put a hair strand here and all that bit's showing inside of her head. So that's not being seen. So you could take that, you could delete vertices, you could merge its center, you could do whatever. And that took that hair strand down. Not a whole ton, but, you know, if we're looking at, 14 edges, let's say, right, so it brought it down about 400, which doesn't sound like much, but once you have a full head of hair going, every vertice counts, and it helps a lot whenever it comes to optimization. So that's something you can keep in mind as you keep going. But yeah, that's just kind of an updated version how to make hair. Primarily, sorry, my alarm went off. Primarily, the biggest thing I would say is whenever you're working on your curve and your path is don't forget to change that resolution preview on both, and that will help so much, because now right on this piece we don't have to work about subdividing, and we probably could have gone down to 2 if we wanted to, because that is still a little high poly. But if you subdivide too much, it can mess up your UV settings, and it can cause a lot of issues. Unfortunately, learned that the hard way. But that's a lot better than it would have been if we had left that at 12. So just kind of wanted to share that as a little update with you guys, as well as the proportional editing, and leaving that on connected only is a big help, especially whenever you're working with multiple hair strands like this. And then of course just stacking it. Alt S, don't forget, is to change the size. Control T to twist it. And yeah, just a few little tidbits I had learned since the last video. So I'm sorry I'm not able to make a full head of hair. I'm just not very fast when it comes to that. Obviously, I started on the bangs and I was like, okay, I hate those. And then I started on these bangs. I was like, okay, I like those, but now I don't like the side ones. So it takes me a while. So I'm sorry it's not a full head, but I hope this kind of helps explain at least my process when it comes to making hair. Some little things that I look for, trying to make the middle part line and deleting extra vertices on the insides or hiding them behind hair strands. Oh, that's something I did want to say before I end. So we have just join those. And we're still in connected only, so if we take this, it's not going to move that extra hair strand, right? So let's turn off X-ray. Let's say, right here, let's say that this, whenever we have our hair texture on it, we don't really like the way that looks. You can, don't forget, always edit your vertices after. So you can sit here and move it to kind of line it up a little bit more how you want, or maybe pull this out since it's in the head a little bit. And something that I notice that helps a lot too is you can turn off right here this overlays. Now it's going to hide everything, but whenever you have your hair textures on, which I'll make another video about that probably whenever I do the rigging and weight painting, I'll include how to do a quick UV texturing. Might make it a separate video, but those will come soon. So you can't see anything, right? But if you know what you've clicked, or kind of the general area of what you're clicking, then you can come in here and you can edit, right? And see it kind of more in I guess a real world example is the best way to put it. So you don't have to worry about trying to see past all the vertices or the edges or whatever. You can just turn that off and sit here and make little edits and do what you need to, to sit here and kind of refine it and sculpt it and fix it up. And that actually goes a long way whenever you're making hair. And that's what I was talking about earlier with if something's not laying right the way that you want it to, you can always go back and edit it afterwards. And sometimes it is easier to edit the actual mess instead of trying to edit the curve. So, yeah, pretty much the same thing as the first video before. I'll eventually end up taking that one down. I hope this kind of helps explain some things and kind of give you guys some better tips on what I've learned for making hair. And if I learn more things, then I'll continue to update my tutorials as I go. But those are a few things that I learned that seem to have really helped me when it comes to making hair. And I hope that has helped you guys. I will, see you guys in the next tutorial. And just a little heads up before I let you guys go. Like I said at the beginning, I am going to be doing my best to remake most of my older tutorials since I've learned some new things since I made most of them, as well as got a new mic, so hopefully that should help out with that issue. as well. And then after I remake my few of my old tutorials, I'll move on to making new tutorials. So as always, if you have something specific that you would like to request, let me know down in the comments or join my server, and I have a YouTube tutorial request section there, as well as I ping in my server every time there's a new tutorial video. And if you don't want to join, totally cool. You can always follow the channel and you should get notification that way whenever there is a new video. So I hope this helped teach you guys some new things, and excited to see what you guys make. I will be back soon with another updated video, and hopefully soon have some more new things to throw up on the channel of how to make more stuff. So anyways, that being said, I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys next time.